the ideas that I've had over the last few years, they've changed a little, but the ultimate sort of French goal has always been there in the background, and it's just how I get there and how to sustain it. So absolutely.
I think in order to get there, I think you need to get it. It's going to sound really harsh, but like get rid of the clients that, or not get rid of them, but like fade out the clients that are not paying you what you're worth. So I'm Matthew Cox and I'm a business strategist. I've run and grown multiple businesses over the last 15 or so years. Join me on my journey with helping other entrepreneurs figure out what their goals are, how to set them and how to achieve them. So today's guests that we've got on the podcast, they are a singing teacher and they really, really love their job, massive loads of passion. The problem is they've got some really, really big visions for their future, what they want to do. They want to kind of move out of the UK, settle down, do some property stuff and the rest of it. But I envisage a bit of a problem here. They just don't simply earn enough money because they massively undervalue who they are, what they are about. They've got a big old case of imposter syndrome. So what we're going to do today is we're going to have a look at that and then see what we can do to help. So we've got Julie from Julie's Art of Noise here today, and we're going to have a little bit of a chat about her kind of plans with her business and maybe some of her hurdles that she's going to try and overcome. But first of all, Julie, tell me something I always like to ask all of the podcast guests. What was young Julie like when you were at school?
Pretty much the same as old Julie, to be perfectly honest.
Not that old.
I haven't really changed very much, if I'm perfectly honest. A little bit impulsive. I didn't do particularly well in school. I think it kind of passed me by, if I'm perfectly honest. I'm dyslexic, and that wasn't picked up in school. That wasn't picked up till later on in life. And so I just really struggled. I was always the one still writing as they're moving the chalkboard up. Now I'm showing my age. Moving the rolling board up. So me scribbling away and ended up copying somebody else's writing. But so I didn't like school.
Did you find that with the dyslexia thing, it's almost like that they branded that as a kind of like a disadvantage almost, or was it because they didn't pick it up, or you? Yeah,
no, it wasn't picked up at all. No. It wasn't. So it was only later in life, and a lot of my family, in fact, most of my family are dyslexic. My dad puts numbers in words. Sorry, Dad. So there were obviously lots of signs there, but it just wasn't picked up at all in school. I obviously wasn't as bad as my dad.
Yes, I think it's funny. It's changed a bit, the whole dyslexia thing now, because when I was at school, it was very much like, it was like you were just, I wouldn't say they said you were stupid, but it was a bit like that. Basically, you didn't learn very well. Like it wasn't really recognised. And then when they did start to recognise it, it was like almost borderline embarrassing to admit that you were dyslexic, because they would give you these like sheets of paper that were coloured and you'd have to hold them over the thing to like make your eyes focus. I'm not really too sure what any of that was all about. And then you got extra time in the exam. So you're the only person left. Everyone else had gone, so they had their hour, you were allowed another half hour. So
well, my kids had that, but I never got that because it was just not recognised at all. It wasn't until I was so I became a driving instructor later on down the line, and there was 1,000 question bank. And as an instructor, you had to get 100 questions right to pass, and I got 100 out of 100. And I thought to myself, I can't be thick, I can't be stupid like I thought it was, because I wouldn't have would have done so well in the tests. And so that's what made me sort of try and research it a little bit more as to why I was struggling with some things and really blossomed in others. So there's lots of books on dyslexia, and I think nowadays it's quite well recognised that actually it's like in the kind of the spectrum of whatever the spectrum might be. Everyone always throws around as a phrase, but I think when people look at dyslexia, they're like, it's more like as like a superpower. It allows you to hyper focus on some things, but not do very well on other things. And I think that hyper focus thing does some people quite well. A lot of the like really, successful people in the world of dyslexic are
Richard Branson I mentioned many times before, as well as people like Elon Musk and so on. They're all dyslexic of some nature, and it allows them to hyper focus on a task. The disadvantage, I don't know if you get this, but like sometimes I hyper focus and then someone goes, but there's this thing over here, and I'm like, I can't deal with that. Like I can only, because I've already made my mind up, it's this way.
That's it. It's that way or the highway. No, well, one of my boys is dyslexic, and that was picked up in school. And obviously because I'd struggled, I was quite conscious to make sure that my boys got, checked, and a lot of the things were similar. But he's studying to be a doctor in microbiology. So, I know, whoosh, lucky to get his mum's brains. But so it's funny how you excel in some things, and when it works, it works.
All right, so let's get on to a bit about your business. So tell us, the audience, obviously I know what you do, but for what you do, maybe a little bit of history and a bit about what you currently do and how it's evolved to where we are now.
Well, it's gone from me being a little girl dancing on my bed with my hairbrush along to Whitney Houston. Now I'm aging myself. So I'm a singer and a singing teacher. So my day job, I sing in care homes, and evenings and weekends I do pub gigs or weddings, birthday parties, anything like that. I also run karaoke sessions in a few of the homes I do, and just been camping this week around a karaoke session for the end of season camp. That's a lot of fun. And then of course I teach as well. So I'm a singing teacher. I teach in a couple of schools. I run a choir in a couple of the schools. I also teach privately from my place in Seaford. And so I've sort of I've gone from just doing a few sort of children's workshops to branching out into all these different things. I've been in bands and stuff like that as well. So
how did you go from like the singing gigs, if you like, for a better word, to then deciding you were going to teach people to sing?
Well, actually, it was the other way round.
Oh, okay.
So bizarrely, so I was in the theatre for about 12 years. I've been in the theatre for about 20 odd years, but one particular theatre I was in for 12 years, and one of my friends there said I should teach. And I said, I couldn't teach. I'm not that confident, I'm not good enough, all that sort of thing. And she said, well, why don't you teach children then? And I said, well, I guess I could teach kids, So that's what started me doing the kids singing groups. And then a few of my friends said, well, could you teach me? And so I said, oh, okay. And so it's sort of gone on from then, really. I started teaching friends, and now it's word of mouth. A lot of the business I get is now from Facebook. Probably 90% of it is word of mouth, really.
Yeah.
Which is great.
And the singing, the teaching singing versus singing in care homes or gigs, what's the percentage split on that?
I do 2 or 3 hours a day in care homes, sometimes 4 hours. Yeah. So I'm doing 10, 12 care home sessions a week. And so then the teaching's sort of a few hours in the evenings. Probably 70-30, I think. So 70 to singing, to 30 teaching.
Okay, so it's the lion's share is the care home stuff. Okay.
I've got to look like I've got a day job, which is quite difficult as a singer. It's really hard as a singer to find a day job.
Yeah, definitely, Okay, so we'll jump onto your sort of questionnaire. So we asked what you do on a day-to-day basis. A normal day consists of breakfast meetings, various networking, 2 or 3 care homes, and a couple of private pupils in the evening. And then obviously we ask you, do you think you built yourself a business or a job? It's always inherently difficult when you are the business, essentially. Again, you say you think I've built a business, although I'm not able to do much more as a sole trader. So what we mean by that is a business is something that maybe operates without you in it, which is inherently difficult, and we can perhaps touch on that and come on to that. What are your goals? To be more profitable and start investing in property?
That's sort of, yes.
We can explore that if there's more to that. So I mean, we'll go into that, I suppose. So what's the more profitable and start investing in property? I mean, obviously everyone wants to be more profitable.
Yeah. So my life's a little bit going through quite a transition at the moment. I'm in the middle of selling my house.
Yeah.
And I'm looking to, as I've mentioned to anybody that's spoken to me in the last year or two, I'm looking to move over to France. And so the investing property side of things has changed slightly. I was going to be looking to doing it over here, but I think I've now decided that I'm going to be focusing on just getting a place over there for now. And so the trying to make my business more profitable side of things, I'm just trying to sustain the French dream. Just trying to keep that alive, really. So
So I guess the sort of 1 year goal, not to put words in your mouth, is kind of sell the house, kind of then make the business a bit more profitable if possible, and then use that equity and any savings that you've got to buy somewhere in France for you to move out there, or for you to holiday lets?
So ultimately the goal is to move out there, but I've got to be realistic, unfortunately. My youngest son's just going to do his GCSEs this year and then a couple of years in college, so I can't do anything for a few years. So the idea was that I got a holiday home, as you say, hopefully within the next year, because I've now found that home. And so I'd have that as a weekend retreat or something like that, you know, and then rent it out, hopefully, as a Airbnb, that sort of thing, you know. And then ultimately move out there in a few years' time when I can.
Yeah, which is on here. You've got your kind of 3 to 5 year goals, which is to reduce your hours and have a portfolio, hopefully a holiday Airbnb. Would you be then looking at, when you say like a portfolio, you're thinking a portfolio of Airbnbs in France, or a mixture, or anything that you can get your hands on?
So, I guess so. I want to try and keep a foot over here, if I'm honest. Because you never know what's around the corner, obviously. And I've got family over here, so I wanted to keep something over here, maybe something rented. And with the goal to, hopefully when I decide to move out, I could get a bigger property. And if I could afford to get a bigger property and keep the little house that I'm hoping to get, then that would obviously allow me to rent the second property out and keep something over here. But it's just finding that money, really.
So which comes on to your challenges, which is selling your house and money. And you've got other challenges. You've got time, obviously. There is only so many hours in the day. And then you've got family as well. So as a challenge, is that because the kids are the age and the rest of it, and so on, or they want to come with you, or they're not sure?
They are very, very happy to come over for holidays. Really happy to come over for holidays. I think it's a different.
To live there.
I'm not sure they'd want to do that permanently. So that is a challenge, because obviously I don't really want to just up sticks and leave my family behind, you know. But my middle son's in uni, so he's 4 hours away. He's in Bristol, you know, he's miles away anyway, so he's not on my doorstep. So if I'm in France or you know, in Seaford, it doesn't make much difference, really. So ultimately, when he comes home, he just comes for a holiday in France rather than a paddle down Seaford Beach.
Yes, definitely. Okay. So that's useful to know. Just kind of, I suppose, rewinding back to kind of the first year's goal, I suppose, and the overall underlying thing of wanting to make more money, basically. So what, in terms of profitability, I don't know how much, you don't have to disclose the prices, or you might want to, because people might want to book with you, but in terms of like going to a care home and singing, I would hazard a guess that's more profitable than the hourly rate for the singing lessons.
Yes, definitely. I mean, I teach from home, so I've got a cup of coffee and I'm in my slippers. So I can afford to be a little bit cheaper than going out. And I don't necessarily cover a huge area with the care homes, because actually I don't need to, because I've got quite a lot of regular bookings. But yes, it's more profitable to do the care homes.
Yeah.
The singing lessons were more sort of just to fit in around my free time.
Yeah. And I thought that would probably be the case. Presumably, I don't know if you've tried this or you've met hurdles or whatever, but to get bigger gigs, if you like, I mean, I'm thinking maybe not like in a band type gigs, but there must be other areas. Instantly in my mind, I'm thinking in places like your big shopping centres, or the theme parks and stuff like that, or anywhere that has like a Christmas events on, or Easter or something like that. They often have somebody singing, and I know they're paid fairly handsomely for those sort of gigs. Presumably, I don't know if you get much access to that sort of stuff.
Well, so I used to, prior to COVID, I used to do 4 hotels a week in Eastbourne. So I had those as regular gigs, but it's exhausting, if I'm perfectly honest. It's really tiring, because I've got family as well, and trying to juggle them and do the hotels and then be up for the care homes the following day. It was quite tiring. And so I have, as I say, I have been in the bands, and I do a lot of solo gigs. I've not thought about shopping centres, if I'm honest. It wasn't an immediate thought.
I'm just thinking about places I see people singing other than like weddings and stuff, like the obvious things, but there are other bits. And I know they pay fairly well for some of those things from time to time as well. So like, I think, obviously it's abroad, but in Spain they had like a lady who was singing in the middle of the shopping centre. And I'm sure I've seen that in the local one here in Brighton. Around Christmas time, just singing Christmas carols basically. But they probably paid 500 quid for the gig, and they'd do it on a Saturday and then maybe on a Sunday or something. Those sort of things probably, I would hazard a guess, are fairly profitable if you can get them. And that's where I think we'll probably lead on to.
And I think my problem is, which I always get told off for, is I'm too cheap. I'm too cheap.
Well, I guess pricing, I mean, I don't know what you charge, how you work it out, but pricing is always difficult because you've got this kind of strategy where you're a one-man band and you think like, your self-worth, but I don't know how much market research you do as to what other singers are charging.
I do know more or less what other singers are charging, but I just, as you say, it's that self-worth thing.
Because they must have like tiers, I would say. So, because a lot of any sort of performing arts, generally, your worth is where you've achieved in life, if you like. So, like, obviously, someone that is at the bottom might be £100 an hour, and then someone else might be £300 an hour, and those tiers, and then you're booking that person. Like the people that sang at our wedding, for instance, were quite expensive because they've kind of built that ness around them, if you like, and they can command that. So, I think, in my opinion, it would be good if you could build that nus, whatever that is, however you define the nus, so that you could charge that extra, that next rate up, really. Care homes probably not going to be able to afford that, or warrant it, to be honest. So it's that age-old thing. Everyone always wants to make more money, and they either work more hours for a same rate, or they up their rates or up skill set themselves, basically. So I don't know what kind of social media sort of presence you have, but that's a useful tool of actually getting you up in that price bracket nowadays. People will see your performances and the rest of it, and then you'll find that people will be much more willing to spend more money when they feel like they can see what they're going to get, and they can see that, and then you might have like the price lists on your website or something like that. I know you're coming here to help us with our opening party on the 27th, but you need to, like, it's that kind of thing where I don't know what that's going to cost. Like, obviously, I know, obviously we've agreed a price, but in my head when I'm booking you, I'm thinking, okay, I know what like we charge as an hourly rate, and I'm thinking it's a skill set that's probably in that bracket, and you've got to bring your own equipment and all the rest of it. So I think commercially wise, I'm much more understanding, or commercial people are, of exactly the hassle and what that worth is. So I wouldn't be too scared of like upping your prices or trying to get into that next band up. And I do think, I mean, I don't know if I follow you on social media at all. I might do, but I don't see loads on social media from your business side of things. So you do.
It's
you do
more,
post.
Yeah, it's more Facebook more than anything.
Yeah.
A mutual friend of ours actually is trying to encourage me to do Instagram. Yeah, and anything like that, sort of just a bit more focus on just me standing singing, a performance side of things, as opposed to a lot of what I've got currently is me going in care homes and them videoing me and that sort of thing. So it's quite a lot of that.
I think for the Instagram and even your Facebook and the rest of the other bits, you have to kind of spread it out to people a little bit. Like whoever you're talking to, I'm guessing who you might be talking to, it's probably right that you just need a kind of you singing and singing some songs that people recognise or whatever, and then you make little clickbaits out of them, get them out there, and then people kind of follow you and recognise you, and then you'll be able to command more for your services. And I think that, in my mind, is the key for you to earning more money, because otherwise you'll get a bit burnt out, because you kind of end up working like 12 hours a day. What you need to work is for more money for the same amount of hours. So I just wanted to interrupt quickly here. I hope you're really enjoying the podcast guest today, but did you know that you can also find us on Facebook, Instagram, various other sites like that, and you can also listen to us on all major streaming services as well. You may already be listening through one of those things, but look at the other avenues that you can do us. You can see us in physical form if you're listening in audio, or if you want to just listen as you're driving along in the car, you can go to things like Spotify or Apple Podcast and listen to us there. So please don't forget to check those out. Please always like and subscribe to all the channels, share them about and the rest of it, and that will help grow the audience. And then eventually we'll have a massive amount of people that are always really going to get involved, and it's a nice big entrepreneurial hub. So if you want to contribute to that, head on over to those other channels, press the like button, and don't forget to subscribe. Right, we'll get back to our guest now. Okay, so I suppose what I mean by the social media side of things is really to take your existing, what you've got now, and actually present it to like a newer, more expanded audience, because those people that will see you on those kind of Instagram shorts and all that kind of stuff, they'll be the ones that might then book you for gigs and things like that, or actually you're building like a personal brand. Because I know you've been going for quite a long time, haven't you?
Yeah, but just over 11 years now.
Yeah. So and it's Julie's Art of Noise, isn't it? Yeah. So Julie's Art of Noise is good, and like locally we know who you are. But then I suppose if you're going to try and get those bigger gigs or those more profitable ones, then that's where you need to be kind of more known outside of the immediate networking circles and things like that. So I guess that would be my advice, to try and build that social media presence, and try and get those bigger contracts. I know like the nursing homes are nice because everyone likes to do a bit of pro bono work, and it's nice to help stimulate old people and and do your bit for society. But in order to reach your kind of 1 year goal, I think a good push and a good focus on that, because then it will give you more cash reserves, and it will allow you to then kind of try and move towards your more longer term goals of moving out to France and so on, which I think we'll kind of move on to now. So I know you've kind of found a place out there, and you were looking at that, so that's exciting. And you're going to try and sell your house and move to that. I guess the being able to keep one foot in each country, there's obviously you'll need to take your own advice, because I can't give you tax advice, because we're not insured to do that. But keeping your foot into two different countries does have tax implications, especially if you're going to own property. So make sure, I'm not that au fait with the French law. I can tell you a bit more about Spanish off record, but French, they all have their own different laws. So just check that out, that you don't get stung for that. Like in Spain, for instance, they have a policy where if you Airbnb your property, they assume that it's 50% occupied for the whole year. So they make a tax bill based upon it being 50% occupied. You then have to prove that it isn't 50% occupied. They have some strange rules like that to prevent people just Airbnb it for like one day and then writing all the expenses off and so on. So I would, definitely build out that reserve fund, get to that point, and then obviously you've got this house that you're going to do. Presumably, initially, you're going to look at doing Airbnb and that sort of thing from it. Presumably, whilst you're kind of still in this transitional period.
Definitely,
yeah. And then I suppose in order to not like the hurdles are about time and money essentially. I know you've got a family. But getting the bigger jobs is not going to chew up the time. So then you're going to at least be able to go and enjoy that.
Yeah.
And I think that, you've got this Airbnb there, and then if you can then build up some reserve funds so you've got some property in the UK and you've got a foot in both doors subject to the tax implications, it gives you that option as well. And then you've got that residual income as well. So you could rent the property out in the UK and then that could feed your lifestyle in France.
My wine habit.
Your wine habit, yeah. Or refurbishment.
Yes, of course. No, I meant that,
yeah. Because you're going out there to refurbish it.
Of course, No.
So I would be trying to do that. So I think the kind of 1 to 5 year goal, I suppose, is about building all of that around it, really, because they're kind of merged in together. And you can't, give birth to it overnight. It will take time to build up. But you're in an industry that's kind of cool and present and the rest of it. So I'd imagine you'll get a fairly good following of people and a lot of social media exposure because it's that kind of business that people are sort of interested in. They like the singing and they'll follow you. You have to be careful, like loads of followers are a bit vain, but then are you converting it? So you need to be able to track that. But realistically, if you can get that, you can get those bigger gigs, that's going to then allow you to kind of fuel that vision, really. And then I think we touched on it in the break, but I think long term, obviously, when you want to move into more of a business owner rather than it being reliant upon yourself, which is going to come at some point. You can't be in France and doing it in the UK. It's not going to work over Zoom.
No. Although I tried during COVID, but
I think you mentioned about agency work and contracting stuff out, and I think helping other singing artists come up. And if you can then demonstrate to them, look, this is my social media presence, you come and do some singing with me, and then that's going to elevate you, you're going to be able to piggyback off the back of that, I can help you, I can get you into doors and things, then you're being like an agent. But people are going to have to buy into you, so they're going to see what have you done. And if you can say to them, I've got 50,000 followers on Instagram, or I have an awful lot of click-through rates on Facebook, or whatever it might be, then at least they're going to be like, okay, you're the right person for me. Because ultimately they're signing up and paying you for that service, aren't they? And you've got to be able to build yourself a business. So the model of Julie's Art of Noise kind of changes and moulds more towards that, but you need that backup for it. Otherwise people are just going to say, well, who are you? You've got a few contacts in some nursing homes. Not really what I wanted to do. So I think that's probably how I would see the journey panning out. And I think that social media stuff is like going to be really quite big and important for you in order to get to that goal. Because don't forget, we've got these 1 to 5 or 10 year goals, and realistically the thing stays. It's like earn more money so that you can then live the life that you want to live. And then you can still have the residual income, but without having to actually do the physical work, like the gigging. Like you need to be able to work remotely for that. Definitely. And in order to be in France, work remotely, but act as an agent for people, you're going to have that kind of stuff behind you to back up what you are as a person. I hopefully that's giving you a little bit of food for thought there. And I think it's important to go from that kind of being in the business, is what you are now, to being a business, which is what you're going to achieve. Otherwise, one day you'll get there and you'll say, well, I haven't, there's nothing to, you can't pass anything on. You can't sell your voice. You can't.
No, that's it. I think that's the thing where I've always found, so there's lots of business advisors and I know about growing what I do, but it is taking it that next step is quite difficult as a singer, because it goes
against what you are, really. I mean, don't take this the wrong way.
No.
singer and art people don't tend to be overly entrepreneurial. It's just because they like their arts and the rest of it. I know I'll probably get slated in the comments for that, but that is a general rule. They give themselves for their art, and that's fine. But actually, eventually, you can't do that anymore.
No,
can you? So,
my favourite saying is that I'd do everything that I do for free if I didn't have to feed the kids.
Yeah.
But unfortunately,
exactly.
Yeah. Not unfortunately, I do.
Yeah. So like
family.
a jewellery maker, for instance, their skill is in their skill.
Yeah.
It's not something they can transfer on unless they start building their business into like an academy and teaching young people how to do that and making stuff for people. Because obviously there are successful jewellery makers, like big, I'm not saying that the small person isn't successful because that's in the eye of the beholder, but there are firms that are big that make jewellery, and then there are lots of independents. The independents, they tend to get to like that retirement age and then go, well, I'm just going to stop trading. I've given up. Yeah, where's your pension? Your lifetime worth of work at that moment in time, like an artist's lifetime of worth of work is obviously in the paintings that they leave behind, but jewellery and stuff like that, or singing in your example, is quite hard to pass on or do anything.
Although with painting and jewellery, you've got a physical thing to show.
You do have a physical thing.
Whereas like once time has passed, that's it, it's gone, isn't it?
Yes, yeah. I feel like a bit like with the jewellery, it's hard. They don't have so much like it's a thingy thing piece.
Right.
Like the art has got much more like signatures on the back of it. I mean, obviously, I'm sure they probably have their own system, but it's less commonly known, I would say. But that aside, like there are lots of trades and arts that are not transferable, and acting is one. When people stop acting, they stop acting. That's why famous actors start like academies and charities and teaching people and stuff, because they realise that someday they might have millions from all the Mission Impossible films that they've done.
I'd be all right with that. I'd be okay with that. I could cope.
But they do run out, and people wonder why they run out of money, because they've got a high burn rate, because they've bought big property and they've got a lot of money that they spend on things, and then they suddenly realise they can't sustain that lifestyle anymore because they haven't made facilities for that, or they want to leave a legacy behind as well, in the charities and things. So I don't know if that's helped at all or inspired you, or if you had any other questions for me at all or anything.
I don't think so. I think so I've the ideas that I've had over the last few years, they've changed a little, but the ultimate sort of French goal has always been there in the background, and it's just how I get there and how to sustain it. So absolutely.
I think in order to get there, I think you need to get it. It's going to sound really harsh, but like get rid of the clients that, or not get rid of them, but like fade out the clients that are not paying you what you're worth. You need to figure out what you're worth. And I would, having seen some of your prices, I'd say you probably could command much more than you're asking for. Obviously, I don't want my bill to
I was going to say.
but I think you could probably ask for more than what you're asking for, and that elevates you in its own right, because it takes you away from that kind of cheaper end of the market and puts you there. And then you can also then look at your competitors and see what the next price brackets are. Why is this singer charging £1,000 for a gig, and why does this singer charge £200? What is the difference? And they probably won't be their skill set. It'll just be what they've built behind them, that they've got an entourage of stuff, and they've got music, and they've got social media presence and all that kind of stuff, and the ability to say, I used to sing at this, I used to pull on all those things that you've done, the hotels that you used to sing in, and all the kind of famous people that you might have sung with, or whatever you've done. I think that's where you elevate yourself up from that kind of like, oh, I'm a bit too cheap, And I know it's hard, and it's generally, as I said before, not entrepreneurial for artists, that bracket of people, demographic, to be entrepreneurial. But eventually, if you're going to see that goal, you're going to have to make those slight changes to the way you do things, I think.
Definitely. Otherwise, I'm going to be singing hotels in France.
Yes, exactly. In French. You're going to have to brush up.
That's limited, I'm afraid,
But I think, eventually you have to have a plan for retirement and so on, don't you? And not singing and that might be where that is. And then you've got your French dream, if you like, and then your goals are to like maybe own more than 1 or 2 properties, you know, to have a little portfolio so you've got an income to fill your pension or whatever. So in order to achieve that, it's going to be a little bit of hard work in that sense for a short period of time, hopefully. Doesn't necessarily mean you're going to have to put more hours in. I think you're just going to have to focus your efforts on things and trying to elevate yourself to those prices. And you'll believe in yourself that you're worth that amount of money.
That's a toughie.
Yeah, I think hourly rates and things are quite hard. I mean, like my hourly rate's quite high, but some of it is to disencourage people to ask me to do things that aren't really productive on my time. So somebody else in the firm might be able to do something as efficiently as me, but on much lesser rate. But people will still be like, oh, I want Matt to do it because he was, you know, it's Matt and all the rest of it. And I'm like, yeah, but it's twice the price of this person. And they're kind of just as good as me because I've got other stuff to get on with. I'm not necessarily saying I'm worth that amount of money, but there's a level there. And it's like, if you want me to do it, you're going to have to pay a premium. And it can be quite hard making that transition to that.
Yeah, well, I did actually, at the beginning of the year, I'd taken advice from our friend and I did put my prices up, and I actually found that I lost one person out of 30 or 40, you know. And that was, I mean, I was very sad to lose them, obviously, but actually it made me realise, well, maybe I am worth that extra, and, you know, so... Yeah, so actually, I think I do. Just it's the confidence, isn't it? And it's really funny because what I do, everybody thinks I'm, you know, I exude confidence. And it's not necessarily the case. You know, it's fine.
It's a different type.
That's it. Absolutely. Yeah. So it's
Yeah, I would definitely say what you charged us, which I won't disclose, I would say I was probably expecting it to be anywhere between £50 to £100 more than what you quoted.
Right.
So I think in this environment, you probably could have got away with a little bit more. I know I'm kind of shooting myself in the foot there, but to give you an idea of that, and that would have brought you in line with another entertainer who we used, another branch opening who makes balloons and things. Maybe they'll come on this show at some point. But that would have brought in line with that. And I think that's a similar sort of skill set. You know, they've elevated themselves to that position to be able to charge that kind of money. So
definitely food for thought.
Right.
Thanks.
So where do people get hold of you, and how do they book in with you, and how do they follow you on social media?
Yeah, so I'm Julie's Art of Noise on Facebook, so you can find me on Facebook at Julie's Art of Noise. There's obviously Messenger through there. You can contact me through there, or I've got a website as well. There's a contact on the website. You can get hold of me there too.
We want everyone to go to the website because that will maximise it.
Yes, absolutely.
Fine. And then they can book all in and
drop me a line and get booked in.
Brilliant. Well, if anybody was after some singing lessons, or more importantly, some gig booking, corporate events and things, give Julie a shout. It's been really nice having you on. It'd be nice to have you on in about a year's time, see where you're at with things.
You can do it remotely from France.
Well, I hope we do it remotely from France in the nicest way. Right, thank you.
Thank you.
So I hope that was really interesting for everybody. And you can see there with Julie that she really, really wants to live that dream of being in France and that kind of lifestyle. But there's a massive, long, winding road all the way to that end result. That is going to entail her getting over that imposter syndrome, making sure that she's pricing her things correctly. She's not getting burnt out by taking on every single job at whatever value it is, and really truly sees the value in her time and what she's worth and gets herself up that scale. In the meantime, in the midst of all of that, slightly touched on in the video will be all of the importance about the Airbnb, making sure she's got a drip feed of income. Obviously, as you all guys know, I'm a big fan of having lots of bits of income drip fed to you from lots of different places. And therefore, that will really help Julie on her journey to getting to that point where she can be in France. She's changed her business model, got over that imposter syndrome, and really she's living the life that she wants to live. What I'd really, really love you to do is smash that like button, subscribe to the channel, comment below. Is there anything you want to ask Julie or me or anybody at all in the bottom there? Just love to reply to the comments. I really appreciate if you can like and subscribe. It'll probably help Julie a bit as well, because somebody might discover her as well, and then they might even give Julie a bit of a gig, so you can contribute to her journey towards getting to France.